gave this country freedom from the rule and the laws of England, of the British government at the time. We declared ourselves to be free of that and free to be our own country. That declaration was created on July 4th in 1776. It was actually created 2 days before that, but it was on July 4th that it was totally approved unanimously by the what's it called, the group of, it wasn't the Constitution at that point, but it was the Confederation of colonies that came together and said, hey, let's be free. So it gave us freedom from the control of the British government, but it didn't keep us freedom from a war. There was several years of conflict called the Revolutionary War that came as a result of England not wanting to allow us to have the freedom that we had declared. And this can happen often as well. You declare you're free to do this, but some other people might say, no, not quite, can't do that here. The government might have restrictions. And this is where it gets a little confusing, the difference between being totally free and yet being protective and cautious against what that freedom might bring about. So, where does it take us with the Declaration of Freedom and the celebration of freedom? It comes to this. We may not be free to do anything we want at any time, to go anywhere we want to go without precautions and things like that. These are always going to be in place in any time where there's a group, society group has come together to inhabit one place. Because you have to watch out for some things, and doing that, you have to take away the freedom to do certain things at certain times from other people. But there is a freedom that we all have, and we all will always have, and that's what I'd like to talk about a little bit more tonight, freedom of thought. We can't always go where we want to go, like I said, or do what we want to do, but you can always think about what you want to think about. You are free to have in your mind anytime, anywhere, anything you want to. No one's going to be watching out for it. No one's going to be cautioning it. And our teaching, Science of Mind, tells us that if we put our ideas in our thoughts that are positive, uplifting, moving us forward, those ideas, those thoughts will go out and manifest in our lives. That's the whole idea of Science of Mind. And a nice quote from Ernest Holmes on freedom, which I looked up. And let me find it here. I got a couple of notes I got to go through. Oh, from Ernest Holmes. He says, I have no ambitions other than to have a happy life and be free. A free choice. And this is what we should all keep in mind. We have no other things controlling our mind but our own thoughts. And if we decide, if we choose to have a happy life, we have the freedom to have that take place, have that in our mind, and bring that forth in our lives. Another one from Dr. Holmes. The road to freedom lies not through mysteries or occult performances, but through the intelligent use of nature's forces and laws. The law of mind is a natural law in the spirit world. And that's what I'd like to talk about. The law of mind is right here. It's up to you how you manifest it, how you put it out, and you have the freedom to go with it wherever you want. And he brings up another thing, nature. I mean, it's one of those things where, hey, we're free to be whoever we want, but if it's raining, then you may not be free to go out without a raincoat on and not get wet, or an umbrella. So nature comes up with things that cause restrictions in certain aspects of what we do. I mean, if you're hungry, you have to find a place to eat. You're not free to be hungry forever because you won't last very long. So that's where freedom becomes down to that assessment of each of one of us. The freedom we have is up to us to put into our minds and exercise it wherever and whenever we can. But the really important thing to keep in mind in the freedom of our minds is the fact that we always have the freedom to make the assessment of what's going on in the world at any time to be for our own good or our own bad. We have that freedom because what's going on, and I've talked about this before, what's going on right now in this universe is an absolute. It is happening now. Our assessment of what's going on and happening in the universe right now is up to us. We have the freedom to make that assessment anytime. If it is raining, we have the freedom to assess that as being, oh, this is terrible. I was going to go swimming at the beach and now it's raining. Oh, how can a horrible thing happen? Or you could go, hey, it's raining. It's going to bring some life to our plants and our trees and cut back on the dangers of fire. So everything that happens at any given moment in your life, you always have the freedom to make the assessment on whether that's good or bad, whether that's something that's moving you forward, whether it's positive or not. And when we make that assessment, that's where we want to exercise our freedom for our best good. We have the choice to look out around us and see what's going on and say, oh, this is terrible, I'll never get past it. Or, hey, this is a learning lesson. I'll find something out here that'll help me move forward in the future of my life, give me a better idea of what to do next. Things like that always come to mind with every time we have that assessment, and we always have the freedom to make a positive assessment on what's going on. Even when something looks like it might be a negative aspect of your life coming at you, you have the freedom to look at that as being a positive activity, a positive assessment. Hey, this is not what I wanted to happen right now, but I'm learning now that I will be better prepared for the next time this occurs. Things that go against your plans or your wishes can be looked at as a learning lesson and therefore positive. You have the freedom to make the assessment that they're positive. A couple other quotes that I would like to reference here. Franklin D. Roosevelt, one of our presidents, says, in the truest sense, freedom cannot be bestowed, it must be achieved. And that's what he's saying. Freedom's not something that can be given to you. You have to achieve it. And that comes down again to freedom of thought. And here's one about that same thing. The only real prison is fear. And the only real freedom is freedom from fear. From, it's hard to pronounce the name, Aung San Suu Kyi, is obviously an Asian gentleman that put forth the fact that, once again, as he said, if you look at prison, you can be in prison, obviously, physically, behind bars, but the only real prison in our minds is fear. When we're walking around and going forth in life with fear as our primary motivation, that's not going to help us, although we could look at it again as a learning lesson. Don't fear that you've left the door unlocked. Learn to lock the door and know that it is, and have that freedom of goodness, of good thought come to mind. And I've looked into a lot of research on this same idea of thinking and what it does and how it helps your brain. And if you go forward with that positive assessment of what's happening, the freedom to look at it as a blessing, as a positive aspect of your life, it's going to do a couple of things. One, it'll make you feel better, and when you feel better mentally and emotionally, it helps your overall health, certainly helps your brain health, helps you learn a little bit more about life. If you go forward with this idea of fear and reluctance and things like that because of other aspects of life, that's going to take away from those things. And what we've talked about in our teaching, what you put out there from your consciousness into the universe is manifesting as what's coming back to you. So if you put out there the idea that, hey, life is going quite nicely, this is exactly what should be happening, which of course it is, because it is happening, then that's going to come back to you with that same blessing. You will see it, it'll be revealed, the goodness of life. Like we always quote from our dear Reverend Betty Ann Brennan, this one that's so valid in life, that she has said, my life is unfolding perfectly no matter what. And you have the freedom always to make that assessment. And if you stop, just take what's going on and look at it as unfolding perfectly no matter what, it's going to help that unfolding perfectly, as opposed to going against it, bringing up stuff that doesn't work for you. So that's where the idea of freedom of thought really comes into play. And here's another one that fits into the same thing. This is from Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. I don't know if I pronounced it right. I know but one freedom, and that is freedom of mind. And this is what we're talking about. No matter what restrictions you have put upon you by any agency, any government, social restrictions, regardless of those, you have the freedom of mind to look at this as being something that's coming forward to you and making your life evolve better, helping you do better. And we can always just stop, make that assessment. That's what our treatments are about. That's what our prayers are about, putting us into that positive mindset. Because when you look at nature, we always talk about the perfection of nature. Nature is what it is right now, just like I said, it's happening, it's right now. And if something is only one of a kind, there's no comparison, then it is by definition perfect. So what's going on in the world, in the universe right now is perfect because there is no alternative. There's no other way to have it be other than what it is. So look at it as being perfection. Look at your place in this thing as being part of that perfection. You're here to help things move forward, to help humanity, to help yourself, to help your family. These are all aspects of that perfection that is out there in the world, coming in and through you and out into your life. And when you make that choice to have that freedom, to see that better side of life, it's going to come back to you and be with you forever. It's going to help you with your mental health. That's going to help with your physical health. Everything will start, as Betty Ann says, unfolding perfectly no matter what when you keep that mindset. And that's mostly the message that I wanted to bring forth to everyone today. As we celebrate the freedom of this nation on the 4th of July, there are still aspects of life that you might consider not as free as they should be and more restricted than they ought to be for this reason or that reason. That's up to you to make that assessment on life and where you are in it. But keep in mind, you have the freedom of thought, the freedom to always look at whatever's going on and seeing how it is benefiting you, benefiting all of life, seeing where the benefit is. Because if you know it's there and you look for it, it will be revealed. Like we talk about the perfection, my divine perfection. If you accept it as being within you, it's going to be revealed much more readily than if you question it, wonder if it's really there, those aspects that get in the way of having it come forth and be manifested in your life. So keep in mind, it's your freedom to make the assessment of life at any time as good or bad, and you are always free to see it as good. And the more you do, the better and the more good will be coming forth and manifesting in your life. That's the lesson I wanted to give. That's the message I wanted to send out. So I think we're coming up to 20 minutes here. So I'm going to close out because Lynn is preparing another wonderful meal that I'll have the freedom to consume and enjoy. And I certainly will exercise that freedom. And we all, on Sunday, we will gather live. That's another one. The freedom to gather live was restricted. It's now being taken away and our restrictions removed, and our freedom to gather live is coming up. And on the 4th of July, we're going to gather live at our spiritual center. All the information is on the website or on the Facebook page here. And we'll actually be meeting as live humans together and free to interact, be there for each other, just the way we like to be in our human situation. Now, let's keep in mind that there will be some restrictions on how close we can be. We're probably going to be looking at wearing masks inside, things like that, that will work as precautions, not to take away freedoms, but to be there as precautions to protect everyone's health. And that's the way things will work in real life. There are freedoms, there will be restrictions on the freedoms based upon that, but you always are mentally, emotionally, soulfully, and spiritually free to be whoever you want, whenever you want, and have whatever you want be taking place in your life. So keep that in mind, stay positive. I'm going to close out with a brief treatment about this and how it can manifest in our lives. So as I say these words in the first person, please know them along with me and say them make them your own. I know right here, right now, in this singular moment, in the continuing infinite evolution of the time-space continuum, there is one source to everything, everyone, and every aspect of life. We call that one source God. There is one God. There is one source, infinite in its power, in its ability to love, manifest, and create. And we are one with that infinite source because we are from that source. And we are connected to everything that is from that source, which means everything in the universe is connected to us because we're all from one source. And we have the ability within ourselves, within our mindsets, to work as God. I can be God as me, creating my life, creating the life for everyone and everything with which and with whom I'm connected. And I choose to make that creation to come from a positive mindset, one knowing that life is unfolding perfectly, one knowing that in the evolution of time and space, this is where we're supposed to be. I can plan for the future. I can think about the past, but it's right here and right now where I am creating the life I'm leading and the life for everyone else. So I choose to create the life for me and with everyone to them connected, to be motivated primarily by love and adding to that kindness and compassion, sharing and caring. And I know that as I bring these forth through my consciousness and into my life, they return to me tenfold and are there for everyone else. I thank God for the awareness of my ability to have the freedom to create the life that I choose at any given moment. And I thank God for the presence of this awareness and for everything else that is here in nature. I release these words to the infinite oneness that is God, knowing that with infinity, the details are easy to take care of, while I just continue to find the best way to enjoy my life and bring joy of life to everyone else. And I close by saying, and so it is. And so it is. I'm going to end this midweek uplift. I thank you all for being here. Let's go forward knowing we have the freedom to have in our minds that which we would choose to make our lives better. And we'll continue to do that. Thank you and have a good night. Enjoy.